Hello, my name is Vanessa Weddell and I'm the head of events at CharityComms. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the importance of being flexible, turning cancelled events into digital events, something that I'm sure many of you are grappling with in the time of coronavirus. A little bit about me. I'm originally from the US, but I've lived in the UK for nearly 12 years, and I've had the opportunity to work in a wide variety of organisations, whether that was in fundraising, community engagement, comms, or events. I work at CharityComms, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about CharityComms in a moment. We're the professional membership body for charity communicators in the UK. We share best practice and ideas. We really seek out new ideas and best practice to share with our members, and we try to learn from what's gone well, what hasn't gone well. We feel like there's a wealth of knowledge in our sector, and we really want to inform and inspire our members. And we also champion and value the impact of charity communicators and within their professional role within the sector. Quite often, charity communicators can be viewed as the poor relation, and we want to make sure that there's a communicator at the top table of every charity. CharityComms has about 4,000 members, and those are spread across 500 charities. And to help support our members, we run 70 plus events a year, and that's where I come in as the head of events. Our event portfolio is diverse, and it allows us to help us share best practice and create peer-to-peer learning opportunities. Some of our events are free for our members, and others are heavily discounted for our members. Events certainly play a big part in our income. We get income from our conferences and our workshops, as well as sponsorship opportunities. Our events program as a whole is quite varied, and we have things like conferences, seminars, workshops, special interest groups, and UK-wide groups. And we also host things like social events. These are typically things like pub quizzes for our members. And we also hold the Inspiring Communicator Awards every November. We also offer senior networking opportunities, and people in senior positions and comms teams frequently tell us it can be really hard to network with their peers. So we try to bring them together a couple of times a year to make that networking happen. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to develop your action plan to turn your events, your normal in-person events, into digital events. And I have to say, I'm learning as I go along. We run 70 plus events a year, and none of our events were online. So as you can imagine, my team and I were really working hard to flex in this new direction. And we'll be holding our very first online event on the 30th of April. So I'm going to share with you what I've learned so far through this process, and I hope that you'll find it helpful. The first key thing I would say is know your event portfolio inside out. Really consider which events can flex to an online format and understand the ones that definitely can't. Also, are there events that you could postpone to buy yourself some time to get to grips with new technology and new ways of working and bring people on side? And also, which events should you cancel indefinitely? There'll be some events that just won't lend themselves to this platform, or it might be that you don't have the right audiences for those type of events. Coming on to audiences, as I said, it's really important to understand who your target audiences are for your event, and are they likely to be responsive to an online event? Do your delegates or your supporters use social media regularly? I've certainly worked in organizations where, the average age of the supporter was over 75 and they didn't really use technology. So it would have been very difficult for us to flex in that same way. But with our membership, we poll our members every year to ask them what they'd like to see from us. And in last year's membership survey, they told us that they would like to see more online events. And so for us, that's a big green flag to go ahead with moving our portfolio online. It's really important to pick the right format for your event. So once you've decided what you're going to keep in your portfolio and you're still going to run, it's understanding when you should pre-record things, when you should live stream, and when you should have the combination of the two. Pre-record obviously reduces the risk of things happening, like if someone's internet connection isn't working very well on the day, or if they become unwell or need to deal with a family issue. If you live stream, that's a really lovely dimension to your events, but it's also a really high tightrope walk. So you need to be careful with that. And you can also think about a combination of the two. we're certainly doing this for our 30th of April conference. We wanted to rest assured that we had some content in the can, so to speak. So we're doing some things that are pre-recorded, and then we're going to have some panel discussions that are live streamed, and also some live networking opportunities. And we're just going to try some things. We're going to see what happens. We've never done this before, and it's really important that we enter into the spirit of doing it, and just see what works and what doesn't, and listen to feedback. I would suggest that you and your team begin to generate ideas, and you can do this in a variety of ways. Certainly look at what other organizations are doing, not just your direct competitors, but benchmark against them to understand what the offering is out there. You're going to need to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. Make sure that you're watching online events. What do you think works well? What doesn't? I know when I was commuting into London every day, I was listening to loads of podcasts. And I would stop listening to a podcast if the audio quality was poor, or if the presenter had a really annoying voice or a way of delivery, or if there were too many ads, or if it was too long. So start really looking at, online events and thinking critically about them. What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? Also talk to your staff, your volunteers, and your key partners. Float any ideas that you have to them and really listen to their responses. And consider working with other organizations if there's a natural fit for your events. This could be especially true with things like awareness days, ways to bring people working towards the same goal overall, just making it a bigger, better, badder sort of event. I would suggest that you evaluate your digital options and make good choices. There are so many products out there that you can choose from, and it's really based on what's right for your organization and what your needs are. In some cases, you might never want to live stream an event. In other cases, that might be the only way that you want to deliver your events. But whatever you do, make sure that you're going out and you're testing, and retesting the tool. Because you're going to need to be an expert in it, and you're going to need to encourage others in your team, your speakers, your participants to begin using this format, and you want to make sure that you're leading from the front. Make sure that you become a pro at managing expectations. I swear that 99.9% of life is managing expectations, whether that's your own or someone else's. And be sure to be honest if this is the first time that you've ever done it. I will hold my hands up and say, this is the first time that I've ever recorded a presentation, and it's been a little bit trial by fire. I woke up this morning feeling very nervous, even though I've practiced a few times. I think that's absolutely normal. And by going through this experience, I'm going to be able to support other people who I'm also asking to work in this way. Be sure to let your team know that there will be an adjustment period, and that lessons will be learned and mistakes will be made. It's inevitable. We're using something new. Every day feels like uncharted territory. And it's just really important to be patient with yourself and others, because we're all learning as we go along. I would suggest training your team on the new tool and develop new processes too. The sooner that everyone gets to grip with that, the absolute better. Make sure that you build in plenty of time for the testing, the troubleshooting, the contingency planning, and the messaging if anything goes wrong during one of your events. And be sure to pre-draft your content for your supporters or delegates to make sure that you have that ready to go if the worst thing happens. It helps sort of reduce your stress in that situation. And I think it's really important for you to bring people on the journey with you. You can't do this by yourself, and you shouldn't do it by yourself. Communication is really clear. Make sure that you communicate clearly with your speakers, your suppliers, your partners, your delegates, and your supporters. The messaging really needs to hit the mark, and it needs to be encouraging, and it needs to show people that this is a positive direction for your events. It means the difference between being able to have the event or not. And it's a way for us all to keep together and to feel like we're a part of something. And I think a lot of people are looking for connection, so make sure that you tap into that. If you're working with external providers and partners, it's really important to understand how willing are they to adapt content quickly and into your preferred format. We've worked with several people on our 30th of April conference. Some people initially said, I'm not that comfortable working in an online format. For others, they said, oh, I can't do that at all. And for others, they were quite happy to move into that way of working. So I think it's really important for you to ask people, what can you do to help them adapt? It's not about pressurizing them, but it's very much, we're in this together and how can we support you to do this? And be enthusiastic, again, with the new format, with your supporters. It's a really exciting thing that you're offering. You're flexing in a new way. It's a new offering. It's a positive. I don't think people want to hear how hard it is to flex and to, completely scrap your normal way of working. They just want to hear about a great opportunity and want to feel really enthusiastic about that. It's important to price your online event in the right way. There are loads of things that you should be thinking about. Should your very first online event be free? It feels like walking a tightrope, whether it's a live broadcast or it's a pre-recorded broadcast. Your very first online event feels scary. And so think about reducing some of that risk and expectation from your event, but also make sure that if you choose to run your first event free, and if you need to charge people in the future, that you make that very clear that it's a one-off opportunity. If your running costs for your event are lower, can you pass those savings on to your delegates or your supporters? If you're not paying for a venue or you're not having to pay the day delegate rate somewhere, you may well be able to make your event more affordable for them. And be sure to benchmark your prices against other events. Have a look out there, see what other people are offering. You're going to see a lot of free content, but think about what makes your content different and what's your USP. And if there is a way for people to make a donation for your work or to pay or monetize in some way for your event, you can certainly do that. And think about finding a sponsor for your event as well. And that's a great way to reduce costs. It's really important to create relevant and engaging content. We certainly try to do that across our normal event portfolio, and we try to make sure that the information and the events that we're planning and the topics that we're covering are relevant, and that our members feel that we're responding to their needs. We ask our members several times a year about the kinds of content and training that they'd like to see. And at the end of every event, we ask that as well, and in the post-event survey. So you can never really ask enough. And I think in times like this, we're all going to need to do a bit more social listening. I think it will feel harder because we're not all physically in the same location. So we just need to make sure that we're doing that. And in terms of developing your content, you need to think about, considering the live mix of pre-recorded content and the live stream that can add some nice dimension to your event. Think about how long your content should be. Sometimes that's going to be dictated by your platform. Sometimes that's dictated by the type of event that you're running. So make sure that you understand how long it should be and how long is reasonable. Think about how long you would sit down and watch something. Are you going to watch a 1 hour and 25-minute webinar? Probably not. You're probably going to watch something that's about 20 minutes, maybe less, maybe slightly more, depends on the content. Also consider how evergreen does the content need to be. In the time of coronavirus, it can be really easy for that to dominate everything that we're trying to do. And it's really important about getting that right balance of, do you need to have some aspects of your event talk and touch on coronavirus? And do you need other things that perhaps could live on your website indefinitely afterwards, and without a mention necessarily of coronavirus or a focus of that? So really think about how evergreen that content needs to be. We're certainly, for our 30th of April event, we're having a mix of the two. So not only are we having live streaming and pre-records, sort of half of the event is coronavirus sort of focused, and the second half is evergreen content that could live on our website quite well for a long time to come. It's really important to consider if networking is an important aspect of your event, and to think about ways that you can make that happen. That might be through the provider who's giving you your digital format, where you're live broadcasting or you're pre-recording your material, or it could be a completely separate website. But make sure wherever you ask people to do the networking, that it's not crickets whenever they get there. You can seed people and ask them to go, and you and your team can go as well, and just get the conversation flowing. It's awkward. Networking is awkward in person at the best of times, let alone, hiding behind a computer as well. So do what you can to encourage people to network. And consider if you've monetized your content, I would suggest that that means that, not that free content isn't good, but if you've monetized your content, you definitely need to deliver some key things. And you need to make sure that you've delivered what you've promised in the promotion for your event. In terms of marketing the event, you really do have a great opportunity to reach a much wider audience than you would normally do, but it can be really difficult to stand out in a crowded marketplace. And cutting through this coronavirus noise, I think, could be really, really difficult. So it's really important to think about when your marketing message, how it's going out, who it's going out to, when it's going out, and just think carefully about how that message is going to land. And always, always, always make sure that you have a really clear call to action. And thank you so much for staying with me. I'm nearly there, and just wanted to say, here are my last sort of top tips. Don't forget to set and measure your relevant KPIs. It's really important to make sure that you are evaluating much in the same way that you would have done with your normal events program, what's working, what isn't. And make sure that you evaluate your return on investment. And that's not just, you know, the pounds and cents, pounds and pence of working. Don't forget to include your staff time. It can take a long time to learn this new format, but after you've done that, things will get quicker and easier. Always ask for feedback on the event from your attendees, your speakers, your sponsors, and your team members. Their feedback is so vital and will help you be able to refine and shape your event program. And be sure to celebrate your successes within your team. Certainly think about what went well and why did it go well. And also evaluate your failures. What can you do better next time? And continually evaluate the tool that you're using. What event shape that you might have right now might not be the way that you want to continue in the future. You might decide to use a different platform, and that's absolutely fine. This comes back to, you know, the title of the presentation, being flexible. Make sure that the platform that you're using really works for you. And if it doesn't work, or if you need to flex in a new direction, don't hesitate to flex. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck with your events. Any questions?